It gives a nice signal boost for the algo. Everybody, please repost the space.
Hey, Maha.
Hey, Kelly J. How you doing?
I'm okay. Just getting all the streams set up. I got it all over the place. We're even on Facebook.
Oh my goodness, this is awesome.
Yeah, so we're all out. I maxed out my streams on QUX Live, on X Live, on Rumble, on Pilled, on Kick, QUX, and Facebook, and YouTube. Did I say YouTube?
Didn't say YouTube yet.
Okay, all of them.
That's awesome. I'm so excited. It's also been really fun to see the number of people who are reminding themselves, who are like clicking I am going. Like this time I think the number was 17. And I'm like, yes. Just little by little, people thinking of this as a nice place to check in a few times a week, and that feels good. That's exactly what I want. It's a nice afternoon check-in and hang out with the MAHA homies and talk about what's going on.
Yeah, and of course, as always, American Mission, kudos. You are everywhere. You are all over the place, pushing for change. I love it. It's so inspiring. It's so awesome.
We're pushing hard, and that Pilled, I really want to start pushing Pilled too, because they've got so many amazing features as far as for community and coordination. I think that's something we really need to check into, getting more communities out there, and for these CTAs. I mean, like the CTA we did for today, that red alert post. I mean, it got over 1,000 hits so far. So.
What is Pilled? Tell us a little about it real quick.
Oh boy, he put me on the spot. Well, Pill.net is another streaming platform, but they have integrated. Well, let me say this, what's coming up. They're going to be incorporating video conferencing even within their communities. So you could have, I think that 1,000 people. It's like going to be like Zoom. But besides the streaming, there's groups, there's communities, there's posting features. Just a whole bunch of stuff. If you
There's
check
chats. It started out as a chat.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it started out as a chat application, and then they incorporated streaming, and then they incorporated groups, and which is like communities here, stickers, and it is a free speech platform, like free speech. Like there's no risk of any of your stuff being censored or taken down, and they also store everything forever for you.
Awesome. And you guys are able to stream to there? Like this is streaming on Pilled right now?
Correct. And
awesome.
You monetize from day one.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. Well, I always love hearing about new platforms because X is really cool, but it's missing a bunch of features for good community organizing. And I think it's bad news when the field sort of centralizes down to one platform, especially when it's centralized. So I love seeing competition. Ultimately, I'd like to see sort of open, decentralized social media.
Well, the cool thing about Pilled is that it's it's like if you have an issue or you need to talk to administration, you're talking to the developers. You're talking to, they're like a little family over there, and they're so great about working with you, explaining things, helping out with some of these other applications that need to talk to it. And when X gets its stuff figured out, the integrations that could be between the two platforms could be just fantastic.
That's really cool. Yeah, I love to hear it. Johnny, what's happening, buddy?
Yes, y'all. Good to see everybody. Mahalo for coming. Man, I see we got the Libertarian Party of Tennessee down there. It's good to see you. I'm real big on the libertarian ideals of small government. Get off our farmers' backs. One reason that the small farmers who do things the right way are having such a hard time is you know, our institutions get captured by these big corporate interests. You know, these are international conglomerate profiteer, a lot of them serial criminals. And, you know, this just flies in the face. You know, I love the libertarian ideal of like government should be big enough, just enough to protect us one from the other. And they're just totally failing at that. And when we let, you know, this sort of legislation we're talking about here today, Monsanto getting a liability shield, it's literally taking away our power to hold them to account. So, you know, I know some people would push back against stuff like this. And, oh, you know, just let the free market be.
It's like, not a free market if you're shielding private enterprise from responsibility for the consequences of their action. That's super anti-libertarian. Hey, Libertarian Party, what is happening? Thanks for coming in today.
Hey, my pleasure. This is Samantha. I'm the vice chair of the party here in Tennessee.
Awesome.
And just, I came in at the right time. Johnny was saying it almost verbatim what we're experiencing here. The person who, the representative who sponsored the bill, you know, he's been bought. Like, he's part of the Farmers Bureau, which is part of Modern Ag Alliance. And as you were saying, this isn't about the free market. I'm a free market capitalist, like right here. And it's not about that. It's about civil rights. It's about our rights to hold private companies accountable for their products.
100%.
It's anti-free market if these people can't be held accountable. And that's 100%. Our whole angle.
Yeah,
well, it's also anti-constitution, right? I mean, you cannot restrict the people and give the government all the powers. The Constitution is to restrict the government and give the people the power. So they are just opposite of what they're supposed to be doing here.
Totally. And so we're going to get into this and give some updates for, I guess, Georgia, Florida. And I'm so glad you're here, Samantha, because you probably know a little more about what's going on with this bill in Tennessee. By the way, Samantha, real quick, you don't happen to know a guy named Tucker Berger, do you? I met him at the Independent National Convention last fall, and he's this awesome kid in the Chattanooga area that's considering running for local office. And I really want to plug him in anywhere I can.
Yeah, it does sound familiar. I don't know if he's in, I'm actually a state organizer for the Mises Caucus. And I think I know him from, was he with y'all, like the Young Americans for Liberty at all, or just strictly independent?
Possibly, not sure. I've communicated with him a fair amount, but I haven't dug too far into his affiliations in the state.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll look into him though, because I know I've heard the name.
Yeah, he is here on X. You can just look him up, Tucker Berger, and I'd be happy to connect you to. I was really excited to meet him. He's just a sharp kid. He's blue collar but educated, speaks extremely well, very dedicated to creating positive change in the community and through the political process. So I just want him fired up and activated because he's got the juice. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I will reach out, and I'm kind of bummed. I'm just now hearing the name again because our convention was in Chattanooga in the first week of March, and we had Dr. Peter McCullough as the keynote speaker.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was a really good gathering, but I'll keep an eye out for him. Thank you.
Awesome, for sure. So I guess, so I'm hearing as of today, someone correct me if I'm wrong, the Georgia State Legislature session is over. And that means that the clock starts 40 days for Governor Kemp to either sign, veto, or run out the clock and let their Monsanto immunity legislation become law. So the clock is absolutely ticking, and we really got to kick up this call to action. Whether you're in Georgia or not, call the number. Kristina, you don't happen to have the phone number handy, do you? I'm so bad at having the numbers handy.
No, I'll make a post up in the Jumbotron here so everybody will have the number and can go right there. Just give me 1 minute.
Great.
And
I'm
also putting in the purple pill, the CTA, that last CTA we have, which obviously needs to be updated with the more states that are pounding on this. It just horrible legislation. So anyway, yep. I will put that in the purple pill.
Great. And this is what gets really scary, right? Is if it becomes law in Georgia, the momentum picks up in their favor regardless, but the momentum clearly is already picking up. So we've got to get on this. And I'm sure other people are on it. And it's an organic process that we're engaging in here of creating a wonderful community that cares about all these issues and then connecting with other organizations and other communities that are active on these issues. So I'm sure we're not the only ones, but we got to add to the noise. Kristina did a great job. Was it last week or Monday? Doing an example call to the Georgia state legislature, whatever that phone number was. It took like a minute. It was no big deal. They didn't ask where she was from. She's picked up the phone and Kristina said, "Hi, I just want to let you guys know that I want Governor Kemp to veto SB 144. I don't want Monsanto being shielded from liability. That's just terrible," basically. And it took a minute, literally, and it was no big deal. There's no script. It's just SB 144, please veto, and they tick it on a piece of paper. The more we get, the more likely we get a win on this.
And to add to that, you made a point with the kind of just the honest, you speak what you know, individual messages, because a lot of these grassroots efforts, and I love them all and they do great work, they'll send like a boxed email for you to send, like email your legislator. And I'm at the Capitol once or twice a week with these people, with these representatives, and they see them, but they don't pay as much attention as an actual custom message. Like, my name is this is why I'm calling. And it stands out a lot more if you just speak to what you know.
Absolutely. And you don't have to say much. But right, if you're speaking from the heart, if you say what really matters to you as an individual, they will pay more attention. These form letters, it's so low effort and they all are exactly the same. So they just don't count for as much. I don't have much more of an update on Georgia, but Samantha, since you're here with the Libertarians of Tennessee, can you give us an update on the Tennessee bill? Did we lose you, Samantha?
Maybe she'll pop back up, but it's so important to have state specific because they're different everywhere. Oh, I think there she is. Go ahead, Samantha.
Looks like we lost her. Perfect timing. I do know this is moving forward in Florida as well, and Matt Gaetz actually posted about it yesterday or the day before, being super against this legislation to shield Monsanto from liability. So
that was crazy. He pointed out too that so many of the Republicans voted for it. So we can't rest on our laurels thinking that we have.
We got real problems in our POF. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, are we going to be primarying these people in Florida?
You know it.
Awesome. I also noticed that that Nicole Shanahan called it out and said, "I see who supported this bill. You're on my shit list." And I can't wait to see. Yeah, I can't wait to see what she does with funding primaries. As long as Citizens United is a thing, we kind of have to use it to our advantage. And I think she might be a great example of someone on our side who's got a pile of cash and an equally large pile of give a shit.
1,000%. Sorry, I kind of spaced out there. My Wi-Fi in the truck quit. I didn't know if you had asked me a question.
I did. Well, so I was hoping you might be able to give us an update and tell us a little about the Tennessee bill, like who sponsored it, where's it at in the process, how can we help?
Absolutely, that would be so great. So it did pass the Senate. It's Senate Bill 527. It passed that subcommittee. So now our target, and we're actually seeing some progress with the House bill. It's been pushed twice now. It's needed 2 sessions. So it's not just a shoo-in. They are hearing us. They're listening. We have a great contact who worked on Bobby Kennedy's campaign. Her name is Amy Miller. She's from Middle Tennessee as well. She's driven to the Capitol, met with the sponsor. His name is Rusty Grills. Like I said, he's his presentation of this, and I just posted a clip from his intro to it. He's like, "It would be a shame if we had to rely on foreign sources for our foods." Like, do you know what you're saying? Like, you're defending Bayer, which is a German company.
Well, the scary thing is a reasonable assumption that he does know exactly what he's saying.
Oh, 1,000%. So in terms of our approach, Amy gave me 2 representatives on the Judiciary Committee that will hear this again on April 9th. So, and I think I have a post. I'll put it in the comments with their names and phone numbers and emails. But we're really just hitting them hard. So we hit the whole Judiciary Committee hard this week. Now we're focusing on 2 that are just kind of quiet overall. So they're kind of trying to hide from us in terms of answering. But yesterday we had 3 reps call us back. So we are pushing the needle. We are getting momentum, and then like thinking, maybe we shouldn't just like push this through. And that's what they tried to do. This was like an under the radar bill until Amy came to us here at the Libertarian Party in the state. And obviously the MAHA crowd, you guys have been watching this state by state as it comes. So by the time it got to us, I feel like we kind of missed the boat with the Senate, but I do think we can stop it in the House. So any help you guys can get or give us would be phenomenal.
So this has passed in the Senate.
It has. It was subcommittee in the Senate, though. It hasn't gone to the main Senate floor yet.
Okay. So the Senate and the House, it can still be shut down. This is already the second session they've tried to push a bill through, so it's not a shoo-in. We've got a good shot at stopping it in Tennessee. That's really great to hear. If anyone is in Tennessee or knows anyone in Tennessee, let people know. Let them know. And if you're here on X as opposed to listening on one of the streaming services, follow the Libertarian Party of Tennessee and give them your support because they're doing really important work.
Thank you so much. And I'll put the whole committee list with phone numbers and contacts, and then our 2 main targets today. I'll put those in the comments, and please feel free to reach out to me. This is if you want to reach out to LPTN, I'll see it. I'll see it more directly if it's to my personal page. You'll see me all over our page. It's at Mountain Mama 988. And like he said, any more pressure we can apply, it would be awesome.
Mountain Mama 988, I just sent you a follow. I appreciate you, and I'm so glad you're here. Please consider this a place you can always drop by and let us know what's going on in Tennessee. That's what this is all about. This is a great community. We care a lot about all MAHA aligned issues, and I think a lot of us have some really strong sentiments towards the libertarian philosophy.
Yeah, thank you. Now, for anybody that's streaming this and can't necessarily see our Jumbotron, the number for the governor's office in Georgia to call is 404-656-1776. Again, it'll take you 2 minutes. It's really quick. I really look forward, Samantha, when you go ahead and post that, throw it in the Jumbotron. We'll call out maybe the most important number there as well. The louder our voices are heard, the more they know we're paying attention. And let's keep them on their P's and Q's and let them know we're watching. And we're not okay with this. We are not okay with giving a foreign company the ability to dodge liability from injuring our citizens and our children. We are not going to stand for it.
Absolutely. I saw Kim and Kelly J had their hands up.
I'll let Kelly go first because I think I know what she's going to say, and then I'll go.
You think so, huh? Okay, well, I just wanted the benefit too of the streaming. I have a split screen and I'm streaming, and so I took that image of the Georgia contact, and that's like if you go into the stream, you see it on the right side, so they can see that. So stuff that I put in the Jumbotron, I do share links and what I can. If it's an X link, I'll convert it to a thread, using the thread reader. And so as much access I can give the people on the other streams to what we're talking about, I can. And the other thing I just wanted to throw up as far as about Florida, I really hope I see Ron DeSantis come up and say something about this because he's pushing hard on the no weather modifications.
That's bill. What I was going to say,
yeah,
Kelly.
Well, you take it, Kim, because you're in Florida.
So this whole idea or this modus operandi of them like secretly pushing through bad bills or arguing a bill, and then once it's going to go to the governor, the special interests get a hold of it and they just gut it. And it take all of the stuff that they've been working hard in the legislature for. I mean, we have got to stop this behavior because it is completely counterproductive. Again, it's totally corrupt. So this is, again, when you call your legislatures, especially on a local level, it makes a huge impact. They don't like to hear from you, okay? So I highly encourage everyone to give them a call. You can call other states if you want to. Doesn't matter. You are, a concerned citizen, and whatever they're doing in one state, you can better believe that there's probably a bill in your state. So
Yeah, and it's a great point that at the local level, it doesn't take that much outreach to make an impact on a legislator's decision because they don't get that much outreach.
12 to 14 calls.
Really?
Yeah, on the national level, it's only 50.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Yeah, but they don't want you to know that.
Right, exactly. Well, that's brilliant because we usually have lately like 50 plus people right here in the room and hundreds listening. So like we have the numbers and there's millions more in this country that if we just continue this organic process of grassroots organizing, getting together, having these conversations and spreading the word, the numbers are so low for what's needed. That's wild. I love to hear it.
Our
Yeah,
biggest problem
once
is
we
that
mobilized,
we don't know
we
what
were
the power
hammering
is.
like, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was saying once we organized around it and with Amy and the MAHA Alliance people, it was like we were hammering them with probably like 200 calls a day. One time they called back and said they couldn't get any work done. And that's what they only know pain. I'm sorry. I had this training about like how the politics works and all that. And and they'll talk to you. They'll be like, yeah, well, we really appreciate that. And we'll think about it. And they'll tell you that they're working with you and they won't. You need to threaten their seat. And that's the nature of politics. That's the only thing they know is pain. Now, the few who are supporting it, it is also just as valuable to thank them, call them and shower them in love. Like say they're going to kill the bill and they've already voted against it in a subcommittee or something. Like call them and thank them because that stands out too.
Wow, that's really beautiful. I love that. Leading with the positivity and encouraging our leaders that are doing the right thing to continue to do it. And, we're going to keep pounding the pavement on this issue. But a lot of times with grassroots movements, it can feel a little daunting. And I think sometimes we don't celebrate small wins. We have some fun things in the future that we're going to do, setting up challenges, making it fun. For today, if you do call the governor of Georgia, if you go ahead and make some phone calls in Tennessee, even while you're on the space, drop a comment in the purple pill. Let us know you did it so we can cheer you on, we can cheer each other on, and we can make this fun as well. Because we've got a lot of work ahead of us. So let's do this. Let's feel good about it. I'm patting you guys on the back for being such rock stars about this. We can change the world and have fun while we're doing it too.
So true. So true. Hey, so we got Billy Zero up here, not to put you on the spot, buddy, but I know that the Council on Domestic Relations, who are good friends of ours, have been tracking this issue. And I'm curious if you guys have any intel that hasn't already come up.
No, to be honest with you, everything you guys are saying is pretty right on. To be honest, I just got off the phone with Danielle and we're actually trying to figure out how to track this a little better because like in Tennessee, you've got pretty good tracking, but some of these states, we don't have the tracking. We don't have the person doing it. So that's currently what we're working on right now is how we do what some of the states are doing very well in the other states. I don't know if anybody has any ideas on that, but
looks like Samantha might.
So I'm a bit of an autist. I'm a chemist by nature. So I do these spreadsheets where I have the list of the people we're calling. I have obviously their name, contact, their district, all the background data, and then a note section with a color code. Are they neutral? Are they in favor? Are they against? And then a note section. And it's a shared document. You can do it on Google Drive. Whatever team you're working with the most closely. I mean, I don't know how many active members are in here. I can't see right now. I'm in my car. But this could be a public document, like by state, where you have the people of focus, just copy and paste them over, track who spoke to them last, what they heard last, anything like that can help in terms of that way. Like say someone is like, okay, I'll get back to you. I have to go ask this question. We could put a pause on calling them and they have a time limit and then we start calling again.
Yeah. So right now the document you're talking about is only for Tennessee.
Yes, but I mean, it's formatted. I could copy and paste you a blank document and you guys use it up.
Yeah, so we've done that as well. I think we're just looking for something like what you're doing that we could take and make it universal. So whatever's working, take what you're doing, and then use that as a template so that we can all be working on the same thing. And so all the data looks the same.
I can DM you some of the templates that we've used, and we can go from there. I'd love to help with that.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I'll sync you up with Danielle and Damo, and we can all kind of work on this. That's what we're working on. We're working on the cohesive nature of the individual things that we're doing. Because what you're working on in Tennessee can benefit other states, and then something that you're maybe not good at. Like I literally just spent an hour talking about this. So if one of the states isn't good at flyers or one sheets, but is good like what you're doing in Tennessee, then you kind of help us organize with the stuff with Tennessee, and then we help you with your one sheets. So we start getting everybody in that lane.
Graphics team chat, data chat, phone call chat. Like we could absolutely help each other set that up.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, that's perfect.
That's how we do
Love this. Yes, that like instantly this space has been a success regardless of what happens from here. I love it when new groups come in here and we make these connections and realize that we can sort of fill in each other's blanks and coordinate, and everything just gets stepped up a notch. It's awesome. God, I love to see it. Kim.
So 2 big things, right, that we've got going on is that the American people don't understand their civic power, okay? And they are not civically educated. So those are the 2 things that we really try to focus on in American Mission, is understanding how important it is for people to be engaged, not just during election years, but all the time. Maybe you schedule off a certain amount of time each month where you call your state legislatures and you call your, U.S. representatives, and just whether they're, they did something that you like, always, include something like that, like she suggested, but also, whatever is a concern. Obviously, at this time of year, a lot of the states are in session, so it would be busier. But if we can start to put that into our monthly routines, I think that we could mobilize and just be so much more impactful.
Hi there. This is Jackbot. I just love to echo what you've said. I think that's brilliant. So many people are just woefully misinformed, and they really don't understand how the process works. I think that people are also really just so flooded with so much information. It's hard to know what's going on, or, how do we win here? I just wanted to share 2 ideas that came to me in terms of this almost kind of gamifying civics, but like, is there some one thing I loved about Kennedy, it was just this enormous amount of creativity. This guy was like incredibly visionary. He captured all of our hearts. People just put lots of their own little like spins on things. But and it was like kind of like a game, or it was just like we would poke fun at ourselves. But I almost wonder if there's like a simple, almost like Candyland game, but for democracy, or like how a constitutional republic works. And we kind of are playing the game, but like there's maybe a graphic that gets floated around and people start to understand how the Constitution works in simple terms. And like, what's the difference between federal government and state government? And in that, like, there should be a leaderboard for the politicians that vote for the MAHA stuff or don't vote for the MAHA stuff, so we can have a visible record of like who's playing with us and who are the obstacles to get them out of here. Because it's like, it's just so much information. It's just so overwhelming. And we want to make it fun. And like, that's, for me, that was like part of the zeitgeist of Kennedy. It was just, this is like a wilding, but it's like very creative, and it will find its way to like a higher place.
Yeah, we've been talking about a civic engagement token for quite some time in this whole meme coin world. Like, perfect. How do we incentivize people? And not only because we talk about it for health, right? Like, how do we incentivize people that they can quit that third job and just like get healthy and get paid for it? So it's that whole idea.
Totally believe that behavior is contagious, one way or the other. We're going to move down bad behaviors, or we're going to move down healthy behaviors. But I think I see MAHA really as role models, because, thinking about the Milgram experiment, like, not a lot of people have courage and bravery. Like, we're the standout. We got to really get clear about what is our identity politically, and like almost become a force that like no politician wants to oppose, because we are so united and firmly focused on, core objectives of systemic health change, and that we're able to get people's attention. We're able to educate people. Get people to change their mind, get them to see where this could all go if we can just take our country back.
Yeah, and there's real power in this in movements in general, with the weaving and the layers of communities and groups and organizations that participate in movements. For instance, all the information about the different bills and which politicians tend to vote with us versus against us, and like which ones are voting a certain way on any specific piece of legislation. Often some of the sort of like grass tops organizations, the national or state level, will have that information. And in fact, 501c3s, they're not allowed to lobby the government. But often the way they'll educate the people that are supporting them is by sending out voter grading cards, politician grading cards, and they won't tell you who to vote for, but they'll list the priorities that organization has and score each of the politicians, which isn't telling you how to vote, but it's giving you some critical information so you can make up your own mind. And any group could pick up that information and then turn it into infographics and sort of be that interstitial tissue to make sure that information is reaching different communities that might not be following that one group that's initially organizing and collating it. So we all have a part to play. And my big thing is making sure that some of us who are really dedicated to this are doing a good job of being that middle point between sort of the top level organizations doing a lot of that higher level work and the millions of Americans that care and just don't have the time, the bandwidth. Because you got to be able to reach them at any given moment with, hey, this is happening. We know you don't like it or you do like it. And here's a quick thing you can do that if even just a handful of us do it, it adds up. And when people when they find the groups and the people that are doing that work well and follow them on social media, it gets a lot easier for those folks to stay informed without feeling overwhelmed. Because in a lot of cases, they only need to know the thing at the time and what to do about it. And beyond that, you don't want to overburden them. In fact, it's unfortunate that so many of us need to engage so much and so deeply for so much of our time every day or week. Most of us, wouldn't it be beautiful if we could just live our lives because things just worked right? But that's okay, because some of us are really built for this work. And for some of us, like myself, this is what really makes me come alive. I love understanding what's happening and connecting with other people who care a whole lot, and then doing that work that makes it easier for the rest of people who care to do the small actions that help us make a difference. Samantha?
Yeah, and that's the perfect point, and that's what we've worked on Libertarian Party, it's the third largest political group in the country, and to your point, it is a fire hose. As soon as you start to dip your feet and getting to see how this stuff works, to a vast majority of people, it is overwhelming. It's completely overwhelming. So getting in groups like this where it's issue focused, if you find an issue where like this person who's never dipped their toe in politics before is really passionate about it, approaches like this, where we have a graphic you can share, we have a short list of representatives you can call, it makes it more digestible. And then it makes it's activism that's doable for most of us aren't paid to do this, right? Like we all have
Yep, I'm not.
So it makes it more digestible. Like, yeah, I can jump on the phone from 2 to 3, or yeah, I can pop off a couple emails during my lunch. And this type of organization is key to making a difference. I live in a bright red state. There's no way a libertarian's going to get in office, but that does not mean that our values and how we feel about making sure people are held accountable and making sure the right values are put through legislation, it doesn't mean we can't make a difference. And this is how we do it.
Totally. Yeah. And, most of my experience in grassroots organizing is not in party politics or electoral politics. It's generally not my bag. I'm usually doing issue advocacy, and I enjoy it because I can really dive in with a group of people. We know we're on the same page because it's one issue. And we can spend our time educating and reaching out, and I can spend a lot of my time thinking about what the different angles are that can bring multiple stakeholders to the table. Like, I'm always thinking left versus right because it's so toxic in this country, but I recognize that so many of us actually want to get to the same place generally. We just have a different angle at which we come at it by. And so you kind of have to know how to talk to a bright red state and bright red people versus pale blue or dark blue. But I've often felt that if we're really right about what we're trying to accomplish, then you can get to that same conclusion from multiple perspectives. And if you want to walk people in towards that solution, you got to reach them where they're at. So you can't come at them with your preconceived notions and your specific value structure. You have to understand theirs and how what you're trying to accomplish fits into theirs. And if it doesn't, it might be worth thinking a little more about your solution and how you might be able to integrate their values, their concerns, their fears, their needs, and create a more robust concept even. Ed?
Yeah, I live in a very liberal area, but there's a lot of anti-pesticide and this indemnity interest in that. So I think it's very much kind of a, I don't know, I guess I'd say sort more towards like what Bobby did, an independent, so that we're not really any one thing. It's kind of everybody because it's across the board. But what I wanted to bring up, I didn't know, I haven't heard if anybody ever did a deep dive into David Rozier, however it's pronounced, Rouzer, Rouzer. He's the Republican from North Carolina who introduced the indemnity and limited restrictions on pesticides into the Farm Bill. I remember posting about it, I don't know when it was, late spring, early summer last year, when it kind of came up as an issue before the election really got going strong.
I'm not familiar. What do you know?
I never did a deep dive on him, but he's the one that introduced the amendment or the section into the Farm Bill. And so he's obviously got connections in the pesticide industry to do that. As I said,
he's getting an F on his politician report card. That's all I have to say. I'm giving him an F-.
Well, I think if somebody is in North Carolina or has the ability to do a little deeper dive into, I think, you know, now that we're getting back into it, I think it'd be really interesting to figure out how that sausage was made. You know, what is the real connection? I don't know who were co-sponsors of it, and I can't even remember the section number, because it was, as I said, the last time I posted a couple times about it was probably late last spring or early summer, because that's when some of it started that was the early talk about it coming out, before it became state independent issues. But that's, you know, if it's in the Farm Bill and stuff, that was what we were trying to do last year, because we were hoping something was going to happen with the Farm Bill, and we wanted to get it removed out of that.
Did that ever happen? You know, I'm totally at a loss here.
Yeah, I don't know, because the whole thing with the Farm Bill was kind of a little bit active in the spring, early summer, but then the election geared up, and so it just, I didn't really, last fall, there was really nothing. It was set on the back burner at that point. It wasn't going to happen.
Gotcha.
I wonder if we can get Brianna in here. I bet you she knows a lot about it, because she does some of that deep policy dives, and she's been talking about the Farm Bill for quite some time too.
Right on. Do you want to hit her up?
Yeah, let me see if I can get her in here.
Yeah. I've had some really nice chats with Bree outside of the spaces, and I'd love to have her in here more, because her focus is on policy.
I think
she really knows what's up.
And I think Rozier, as I remember, 7th District. I don't know what part of North Carolina that is.
Okay, but North Carolina. So it's interesting. I'm noticing there's a lot of what we've been talking about lately in here that's like Tennessee, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida. That's a nice little regional block for us to be organizing in. So I like to hear that.
Yeah, and thank you too. I mean, what you're saying is follow the money. And you're saying, let's look at the politicians also that introduced and sponsored these evil little bills. And then we can really kind of target where the money's coming in, call them out for doing that as well. So that politicians in the future are a little bit gun shy to actually sponsor these deeply corrupt and bad for our citizen style bills. I like that.
Awesome. Yeah, I do have to jump. I just wanted to thank you guys for inviting us on. I left a message. Billy, I'll reach out directly with those resources on templates and everything. And on the last note you guys make, there is a site, and speaking of follow the money, I'm sure you guys know what it is. We can link that up in here too, where you can see the donors and the recipients, and most of it is public information. Like, all this stuff is available, and then when you have a team, make that someone's piece, right? Like, not all of us can do all of the things. So if you have a good group, assign that to somebody and go follow that money.
Yep.
Oh, it's been so great to have you in here, Samantha. We're Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 2 p.m. Please come back. Let us help you. And help us, keep us informed. Thank you so much for being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you guys again. Have a great day.
Take care, Samantha. Hope to see you soon.
I sent Bree a text, so hopefully she can.
Oh, good. I sent her DM.
Sweet.
You sent her a text. We're gonna get her.
Yeah, I've got to get a good solid list together of everyone I need to remember to invite every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday as we're about to go live. I do the best I can so far, but I'm not the most organized organizer. I'm really the flow guy, not so much the structure guy.
You're doing a wonderful job. Look at all these wonderful people we have here working together, trading data, trading information, so we don't all have to go at alone and do it all by ourselves. It is so valuable, guys. Thanks so much.
Yeah, it's awesome to see.
I just put in the purple pill. I looked at Brianna's wall, and she's got a big call to action thread regarding Monsanto, the history, and about how it's set in Tennessee, this immunity bill. So it's really detailed. So if anybody wants to check that out too.
Awesome.
Her stuff is always so great. I mean, she sees legislation like a puzzle. So she cross-references, because they always have all the go here, this section, or they reference different sections of the bill, or they reference a different bill. And she finds it to be entertaining and looks at it like a puzzle. So she enjoys putting it all together and making it so that we can understand what the heck they're trying to say.
Yeah, they do make it pretty inscrutable on purpose, don't they?
And they're not supposed to do that. The Constitution says they're not supposed to do that.
Shocking. Politicians not going by the Constitution. Wow. Breaking news.
Another good resource for the funding and stuff, it's new, right, is the doge.gov, because we're getting all of these line items of spending, and shocker, but a lot of our politicians are tied to those things.
That's interesting.
Ooh, a moment of celebration. Thank you so much, Johnny. Iowa pesticide liability shield bill is dead. Dead in Iowa. Let's give a round of applause for that.
Nice. I'm going to go out on a limb and say we did that. Nice job, everybody.
Yep, pat yourself on the back just a little bit. Every little bit counts.
The royal we, you know what I mean? You don't need to be in this space. If you're in this heart space, if you're in this mind space, we did it. Congratulations. That's one down. It'll probably come back again unless we pass positive legislation that preempts that sort of thing. But we'll be even more ready the next time they try to bring it up.
Well, the governor of Iowa, Kim, I think it's Kim Crawford. She has set up her own, state doge, and I don't know if you guys caught, but she did it. She was in a hearing. I believe it was maybe the beginning of this year, or possibly the end of last year. Last time they were in session, and I mean, she was on top of it. She's like, we have gutted everything. We've taken out those people that, were doing bad things. And so I'm really excited about Iowa and hope that, other states are going to, take this example and run with it.
That is amazing. It just instills you with hope. It really instills you with hope. I'm so happy it's Friday. It's been a long week, but it has. it's nice to go into the weekend with a little bit of a success, with optimism. And yeah, go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, one of the things really to support is, I think Equip did some of it, NRCS does a bunch of it, but it's helping farmers to do cover crops, because that, as they get into the cover cropping and getting the education of roller crimping and planting green and getting some support in our area, which is a lot of really small farms, they got a little support to get a seed drill. That's all going to, the way we look at it in regenerative agriculture, especially at scale, is, it's really hard to fight them, but we can starve them out. And by just not needing these herbicides, it's like with pesticides, with the insects. Regenerative ag has pretty much eliminated the need for that by just bringing plant health and diversity and everything. So pesticide usage, especially at scale, I'm talking farms of many hundreds and many thousands of acres, are no longer needing the insecticides and the fungicides. The herbicides is a little harder, because even in organic, it's harder, because dealing with weeds in organic, what they do is they do a lot more tillage, but that ruins the soil, ruins the soil structure. So that's a problem. And in big ag, some guys went to no-till, so they didn't have the erosion problem, but then they have to deal with the weed problem. So some of them don't go to cover crops and then don't go to the next steps, which are, ways of dealing with those cover crops without having to use herbicides. And the other thing we're doing in regenerative ag is we're really understanding how to have really healthy microbe communities. So, and to limit any herbicide use. In fact, yesterday I put a list of, I was going to do the top 25 in images, but I could only do the top 20 herbicides that are used, because it's not just glyphosate. There's 2,4-D, there's tons of others. And so, but the main thing is, the one thing because big chemical ag doesn't pay for the externalities of water pollution, of chemical pollution, of what gets into
That's
our
right.
food.
And this is true of many other issues too, manufacturing and other things. They externalize the costs.
So that's the one thing that government can actually do good, because it's good, because, incentivizes a farmer. I mean, he could be like, he's got to compete with, the big ag, chem ag. So they don't care about the soil. They don't care about those externalities, but we, the people, do. So if we can support especially getting them into a transition, then they can start economically, because they'll save a lot of input. So if you help them out, get started for a couple of years, then they are on their own. They don't need it anymore. And then they don't need crop insurance either. So it saves a ton of money out of the system, a little investment in the right place. And that's where Doge really has to get into using a scalpel a bit instead of just a sledgehammer, because it is hurting a lot of guys that are just trying to do the real farmers, trying to do the real good things for the people. And that's going to take public support to do that, to help.
Well, and there's a number of ways to do that, but you're right. We need to be careful that as we're cutting waste, we're not also cutting reasonable investments that pay dividends in health and in local economics and supporting our farmers, which is so critical. Which is interesting, because at least a few months ago, Elon was posting about farmers all the time. So I know in general, he really supports American farmers. I'm curious what he thinks or knows about chemical agriculture versus permaculture and regenerative agriculture and stuff like that. He might be due for an education.
Well, do you know about Kimball Musk?
I do.
Kimball has that. He did this project. It's kind of it's for school gardens, mostly school gardens, but also like community a little bit, or let's say urban.
Square roofs.
But the only thing weird about it was like these S-shaped plastic containers, raised beds that they would put in schools. But the problem was they were telling people to go to basically Home Depot, get a bunch of fill. You know, it was the Home Depot crap and the Miracle Grow, and
yeah, this is where the guys miss it when they try to scale something.
Yeah,
and when they're
it wasn't
obsessed about
regenerative at
scaling,
all.
they go right to solutions that aren't quite optimized, and they want to get their unit cost down, so they go to companies who are not in our value chain.
Right. They were
and it
getting
ends up
funding by some really kind of weird people.
Yeah,
to do
the
project.
revolution will not be supplied by Home Depot and Walmart. That's
Right.
just not. It's just not how it's going to
So
work.
I don't know. I haven't. About maybe 5 years ago he started this, and I used to go and try to bring in the microbiology. And once you really teach kids, love critters. They love to learn about microbes and all that kind of stuff, and that was completely out of the program. And I tried to bring it in a little bit, but I realized there was some, as I vaguely remember, there was some rich guy in Brazil or something that was contributing.
Well, Ed, to circle round about Kimball, he did launch Square Roots, and they were doing kind of shipping containerized gardening. So that's, there's a big difference between in the soil, regenerating the soil, versus can we grow food right in inner cities, right in food deserts. And I know Kimball's magic is when it comes to restaurants and whatnot. He did just open up a new farm-to-table restaurant in Austin. I've seen his interests kind of pivot and shift to what he's really good at, and inspiring the farm-to-table from kind of the restaurant side of things.
Yeah, and just to be clear, this is Elon Musk's brother, Kimball Musk.
Yep.
Yeah.
And some of my friends went to that restaurant recently, and they just raved about it.
That's cool. I love to hear that. And notice when he does something local, like a one-off, he can actually like really dial in, making it super high quality. But then he tries to like do this big scaled project, and it kind of critically misses certain points that make it fall short of the mark. Before I get to Kim, I just want to circle back for a quick second, Ed, on something you were saying about us supporting these positive things and not just fighting the negative things. This is such a critical mentality when we're dealing with these issues, is we can't always be on the defensive. And sometimes we have to be, right? These bills are being pushed through in states to give Monsanto immunity. We have to shut those down. But as we're doing that, if we can even give 5, 10, 20% of our effort into supporting regenerative agriculture businesses, pasture-raised local meats, and things like that, and start really building up that industry, it kind of makes an end run around the whole thing, because you have more farmers not using it to begin with. And that's also, that does, I think, a lot more work to stitch together local economies and support the people that are actually building the businesses that are within our value structure. Because I've always felt weird about this, and I found this especially on the left, that the regulations they try to pass seem to amount to trying to get the assholes in government, to get the assholes in big business to be less shitty. And even if they took that all the way in that mindset, you're still going to pay shitty corporations that are only less shitty because they were forced to. You're still sending your money outside of the value chain. You're still sending your money outside of the community. So shifting as much of our focus as we can to supporting local business, supporting ethical business, supporting each other, ultimately has the greater return, in my opinion.
I want to build on that because, something that Ed said with the schools, right? Maybe what we need to do is replace these awful guidance counselors that are just mucking up our kids with a gardening specialist. You could have an entire new field in the schools because what happens, or what happened with this last attempt at school gardens, was they basically came in, set up these gardens, and nobody at the school knew what to do. Right. So there wasn't like a specialized team, or like where she could have classes, she could create things, or he, right. And then you could also have an entire industry sort of around that, educating the schools and keeping the gardens up.
Yeah, and I think there's opportunities here in the local and the state level to sort of craft and pilot projects like that. It's much harder and maybe even impossible to set that at the national level before having really good models and templates. And you may not even want to set it at the national level because then there's often a lot of like graft and inefficiency to it, or a one size fits all mentality.
I mean, think if you could get the schools growing their own food to feed the children. I mean, that would be...
with the children involved in the growing of the food.
Exactly. And if you can incentivize that, again,
food forests
let's give
that they can tend to.
Grants,
You're right, though. We would need a point person because I've done community gardens at schools, and the setup's pretty extensive. But like you said, you know, a lot of these teachers don't know how to garden. So it almost seems like, and I hope maybe we could get a point person like they have an art class. They have, you know, music class. And maybe they could have a garden class and somebody who knows how to maintain it, because we put these gardens in before, and then you come back a while later and it's like, ooh, okay.
And you add it to the curriculum. Add gardening to the curriculum. There is a skill that they could use their whole lives.
Have a groundskeeper position at the school that's also the gardening teacher, right?
You got a whole new generation of farmers right there.
Yeah. Yep, or at least people that understand where their food comes from and might be more inclined to grow a little bit of that food in their home, even if it's just a window box or what have you. But they're just so much more accustomed to getting their hands in the dirt, knowing what it's like to plant a seed, and the joy that comes from watching it grow and then being able to harvest something from it. It's really magic, especially considering the tragedy of so many kids that literally think food comes from the store, which is kind of a crazy thought, right? Until they learn better, they just actually think that a tomato comes from the grocery store.
And also in your own backyards, everybody talks about, you know, planting lettuce and these crops that, you know, they die at the end of the year, but none of us talk enough about fruit trees. You know, plant an apple tree in your
fruit trees,
backyard.
Perennials, things that come back year after year.
Exactly. You know, a bush of rosemary can be so rewarding. It's a landscaping item, and yet here it is. Or a patch of basil, a patch of mint. These things just take off, and then you can have fun. You can have your but fruit trees. I really wish that you know, when we talk about this, are you planting a garden this year, and so on and so forth. Plant a tree. It might take 2 or 3 years for it to take off. But plant a tree. You will have more avocados than you ever know what to do with. All of your neighbors will have avocados too.
I love fruit trees. They produce, if they're tended well to start and they're grown in the right climate, they produce so much. Like living in the Bay Area was wild. I lived in this one house for 6 months. We had a gorgeous rosemary shrub right by our front door. And I would just go out and cut a few sprigs off and make my food with that fresh rosemary. We had an orange tree in the front yard. We had blueberry bushes in the back. And they just produce, you know, very little needs to be done to them.
Yeah, set it and forget it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's also the permaculture concept.
I see Bree down there. I think she's requesting a mic, and I've got to dip out. But a great conversation today, guys, and I appreciate everything that you guys are doing.
Thank you so much, as always, Kim.
Thanks, Kim.
Kristina, oh, there we go. Bree's up here. Sweet. Hey, Bree, how you doing today?
Hey guys, how's it going? I heard you guys were asking me to come in or had a question.
Yeah, were your ears ringing? We were celebrating your amazing mind, your amazing brain, the way you organize things, and yeah.
Yeah, we've been talking about the Monsanto immunity bills, and I don't remember exactly what came up that we thought, let's get Bree in here.
The Farm Bill.
The Farm Bill. Thank you.
I was talking about David Rozier, or Rozier, R-O-U-Z-E-R, from a rep from Republican rep from North Carolina. That because I posted about it late last spring, early summer when it came up. And he was the one that I guess put the immunity clause thing into the Farm Bill, and also limiting restrictions on pesticides in waterways and all that sort of stuff. But I never did a deep dive into him back then, because then the whole Farm Bill thing, because of the elections, really got put on the back burner. But we were wondering whether you knew anything about David, and you know, did a deeper dive into what his connections are with like Bayer or any of the pesticide companies?
No, I'm sorry. I don't know much about him. And yeah, in terms of the farm bill, you know, the previous version of the farm bill is really sort of dead at this point, and as far as I understand. So they're really reworking quite a bit, and I understand that RFK Jr. is going to have a sizable role in the next farm bill, which I don't see the next farm bill coming out for probably, I mean, I don't even foresee getting the text for another 6 months. Like, it could be after the midterms that we actually see it debated in the halls of Congress. The Trump administration is really trying to rework how we do domestic production. And I think really what happens in the next couple of weeks will determine how far they try and push that in the new farm bill. So there's quite a bit of uncertainty. There's quite a bit up in the air, and everyone is vying for a position, including, you know, Bayer, Monsanto, and the Farm Bureau sort of lobbies of the world, if you will. So, but you know, in terms of the liability immunity and how it works, this is really an attempt to not only obfuscate RFK Jr.'s wins in court against glyphosate, like Roundup, for example, when it had glyphosate in it in a residential capacity. But, you know, this is also an attempt to get ahead of the Trump administration and the sort of MAHA movement at the state level. And, you know, the unfortunate side of this is that any state legislature that passes bills like we see in Tennessee, or, you know, Florida luckily just tabled their version, but any state that passes a bill like this, they'll effectively be preventing farmers, ranchers, and even residents, you know, just people who sprayed Roundup in the residential properties, from taking part in that class action lawsuit, which is, for anyone who's not aware, it's at $11 billion right now, and it's still open to new clients who have been harmed by Monsanto's product, Roundup.
Whew. Yeah. So that sort of underscores how important it is that we beat these bad bills in these states, and that we support the good bills in these other states. Bree, it sounds honestly like good news that the farm bill is not going to come back around for a little bit. It kind of gives us the bandwidth to focus on these state bills. That's great. Maybe you can tell us a little more, because a lot of us in the MAHA movement are worried about the USDA chief, what is it, Brooke Rollins, and how she might be compromised, and she might not exactly be MAHA. And I'm wondering what maybe you know about her and sort of the dynamic that's playing out now between her and Bobby's stuff. Another thing that I'm curious about that I don't necessarily expect you to know much about, Trump created, after putting Bobby in the position of HHS, he created the MAHA Commission. And I don't know much about this thing, but I'm super interested, because the MAHA Commission is chaired by Bobby as the secretary of HHS. And in that commission are like all the other executive agencies, USDA, EPA, housing, like a bunch of them. And I'm super curious what the power dynamic is here, and if Trump was essentially giving Bobby leverage over the rest of the executive agencies from his position.
So, yeah, that's a really good question. And so what it looks like to me is very similar to what the Biden administration created. And these were called interagency task forces. You know, the Biden administration used interagency task forces to appoint equity teams above sort of the secretaries and cabinet picks in order to direct the ideological outcomes of administrative procedure, or rule changes, essentially, right? So regulation. And so I see that the Trump administration is sort of leveraging this similar concept, but in a sort of different capacity. Now, what the outcome of that will be, I'm not really sure. I can, however, speak to, some of the decisions that that Brooke Rollins has made that MAHA has sort of, railed against, and I can help to explain that a little bit better. For example, there were the temporary assistance programs, TA, PF, and TA. I forget. There's so many acronyms, but these are essentially temporary programs that were supposed to help, get food into rural and local districts when schools were closed down, essentially. And there was very little, there was no oversight. There were millions of dollars that went into sort of ideologically aligned, NGOs. And there was a ton of money that was not only wasted, but it didn't actually go to organic farmers. It didn't actually go to ranchers or any of the places where it was supposed to go. This was all part of that federal plan for equitable long-term recovery and resilience, in which humanity was ranked in a very different way according to immutable characteristics. So as opposed to going to like a I don't know, take your pick, someone who's been doing regenerative farming and is like a pillar in their community for regenerative practices, the money went to, organizations that supported specific ideology. And then they would...
even big box stores, some of the food donation was calculated upon weight. And we were part of giving money. We got some of the money to go save farmers that were having...
This is the United Farmers Alliance?
Yeah. People were having to plow, farmers were having to plow their food under. So we were just a fledgling nonprofit. So we dove right in, saved some farmers from, a very bad season. And we're able to donate that to the food donation lines. But what we found is our truck would be parked next to someone that they would have cases of like soda and this and canned goods and all this heavy stuff. And we're like, what the heck? And some of those donations were being calculated upon weight. And that's the money that actually did get to the food, quote unquote, producers. So Rihanna, you're absolutely right, Bree. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got some better statistics too. I'm in line to get my tires rotated at our local farmer co-op, speaking of which. But yeah, I'm happy to share. Just give me 2 seconds, okay? Hold on. Give me 2 seconds.
No problem.
And everybody in the room, be sure to follow the speakers here, especially Bree, and thanks for popping in and educating us here. And do
and follow. Yep. Repost to space, follow America Mission, follow the Council on Domestic Relations, follow Club MAHA. Me and Kristina, we do this 3 times a week. And this is just all about digging into all these issues that we care about as MAHA folks, and making a big difference. Ed?
Yeah, I've got to go out. I can listen, but I won't be able to speak for a little bit. But going back to the schools thing, there is a national thing. It's kind of under USDA, but it really doesn't give any funding to them. But it's called Agriculture in the Classroom. There's pretty much one in most every state. And some of them are run by the land-grant university. Some are more independent. In Massachusetts, we were independent. And what it does is it brings teachers. We did a lot of work on workshops for teachers and bringing them out to farms so they could learn about agriculture and then bring it into their classroom. And the other thing is that state by state, anything you do as far as curriculum, we did a little bit of curriculum. It all has to be approved by the state, which can be a real battle because often they're influenced. Right. So whenever you do anything with local schools, it has to go through state and curriculum. I'm sure there's a bunch of active regenerative ag people that would probably help create a little bit of curriculum and that people could try to take so that we can get a little bit of education for like your school garden and that kind of stuff around microbiology, diversity, all the things of what they grow, you know, all the things that kids are much more interested in instead of dumping a bunch of Miracle Grow.
Well, never has there been a time when we can make more change, right? Because everything is so in flux right now and we're trying to repair things, but we can build it a different way, right? And so we just have to be firm and, you know, like stand our ground and say, no, we need this. If we are going to get to where we need to get to as a race, right, of humanity, right, we need to be able to say, no, we're not going to do it the way we've always done it. We need to have, you know, a garden specialist in every school, just like we need a resource officer and a music teacher and a phys ed teacher. That should be incorporated into the schools. And then you can get the curriculum through that department, if you will.
Totally. And there's also this move towards things like homeschooling. And so there's an opportunity to generate curricula that we can distribute for free, you know, just have a good resource online with curriculums around this stuff, and make ourselves available, and maybe even do some sort of hustle in reaching out to Montessori schools and Waldorf schools and local communities where they've gotten together and they've got a little community homeschooling situation going on. And I think there's a lot of opportunity there as well. Bree?
Yeah, so I just wanted to add to, in terms of Montessori schools and, you know, feeding school districts specifically, you know, what I would say one of probably the biggest things that the Trump administration could do, and Brooke Rollins for that matter could do, again in the second Trump administration, is exactly what they did during the first Trump administration, which was decentralize Obama, now Biden's centralized procurement system. So, most people are potentially unaware, but through the FNS program, both Obama and then Biden in the last 4 years handed that over to the Department of Defense, because the idea was that the Department of Defense could leverage its massive procurement process.
Right. And this is how they ended up getting a whole bunch of like old and moldy ultra processed foods in the schools.
Exactly. So one of the most important things that the Trump administration could do, and Republicans in Capitol Hill with the Farm Bill, right, as opposed to subsidizing with these like temporary programs that shouldn't exist in the first place, what we could do is really prioritize you know, districts being able to buy from their local farmers and ranchers, grow their own food, do community gardens where kids are learning how to, you know, learn how to garden and be able to eat from that. And that's not year round, obviously, but you could do a community garden project through the summer and then can through the winter.
You
and then get to have that like a snack. I'm sorry?
As I say, you could teach them how to can and do all of these other life skills that we have neglected to teach our children at this point.
Exactly. And I know that there, you know, some people might be rolling their eyes like, oh gosh, that's a ton of work and blah, blah, blah. But there's so many different organizations. You've got your Boy Scouts, you've got your FFA, which is Future Farmers of America. You've got your 4-H groups. You know, you have all these local community supports that could come together, you know, and work with the local food banks, work with your local farmers and ranchers and the school district to help ensure that kids are, you know, getting access to clean, healthy, local food. And you're putting, you know, money and energy and time and resources back into your own community, supporting your own farmers and ranchers to grow the kind of food that you want to eat, right? It's about that investment. And we just have not had that investment back into small, local, rural economies in decades. And we're suffering because of it. You know,
Totally.
That's another big issue with, you know, the whole tariff conversation right now. We cannot feed our own nation right now. If, for example, and this is the unfortunate side effect of becoming an import dependent nation, it requires an increased military presence to secure supply routes. And, you know, if, for example, and we're very close to that becoming kinetic at this point, if that military presence becomes kinetic and we are shut off from our warm water ports, for example, before we're capable of investing back into our own agricultural production, we will starve to death. Literally, we will starve to death before China or Iran or whoever, right, it ever has to fire a single shot. We are in a very weakened and vulnerable state right now. So it's not just a matter of like feel good, oh, this is fantastic, we're going to make everyone healthier. It's literally a matter of survival at this point.
Totally. Seriously. And, it's funny because we have these conversations in the space, and we've sort of started crystallizing around the Monsanto immunity bills, and that's getting some good organization. And then in the course of a chat, we'll have 2, 5, 10 other wonderful ideas come up, and it gets kind of scattershot. And I am hoping that as this MAHA movement sort of crystallizes over the next 6 months and a year or more, that we're able to really clarify sort of content and strategy around how to push a bunch of this stuff forward.
Yeah, we actually, at the Council on Domestic Relations, one of our partners has a really large platform where he teaches courses on canning and all sorts of these things that we're talking about. He started building that out through COVID. He actually is a longtime partner with Sherry Tenpenny. And so we actually have like a whole fleet of courses on those kinds of things that we're going to be opening up to people too. And I love that she brought that up because it goes unnoticed all the time. I'm over here with like a practical market in my basement and canners and food dehydrators and all the things. Everybody needs to have accessibility to that stuff now.
And this is just another example, right? It was like an idea comes up and you're like, oh yeah, we're working with somebody who does that. It's like, that's what this is all about. Yes. Connecting people to connect people to bring in the resources. Oh, someone's already done most of that work and they just need to signal boost it. Brilliant. Let's do that. Yeah. Prashant, I want to get to you in just a second, but Ranch Mama had her hand up for a little while. Ranch Mama, did you still have something to say?
Well, I think we skipped over something big that Brianna mentioned when she was talking about the local foods for school program and the local foods for pantry programs. Those were 2 grants that have been cut in our states. I've been on the board since of both of those here in Iowa since their applications. And she glanced over the fact that they were idealized and specifically targeted. She kind of brought it up. And what that means, though, is that the money that was allocated for farmers was targeting very, very specific of, quote, socially disadvantaged farmers. Many of us farmers and ranchers were not eligible for these funding because of that social targeting. Even me as a woman owned, I do the beef side of things. My husband does most of the ranching side of things. We still were not eligible for a lot of this funding. And they prioritized beginning farmers and ranchers over current farmers and ranchers. And I know that idealistically, that's a great thing. But when it comes down to it, we need to support our current farmers right now, because we will be able to feed America. We have the resources, we have the education, and we have the experience in order to know how to get these things done. Because as Brianna has said, there are so many layers to what farmers and ranchers, the hoops that we have to jump through, that I would say that probably everyone in this room, except for maybe 3 of us, don't have a clue about the hoops that we have to go through in order to get our food to humans, let alone to a school system.
Yep.
Because there's even more hoops that we have to jump through to get it to a food system. And so I love all these conversations, and like you were talking, but I'm a realist. The number one thing that you can do today is to choose what you put on your own plate.
Absolutely.
Know who feeds your family and your house. And then as you are out at school events, do talk about where you're getting your food and who's raising your food. And that's how we truly gain momentum into a situation where Our neighborhood school literally raises 100% of their food in their cafeteria from beef, chicken, pork, and like 10 of their vegetables is 100% raised by their students in their
Absolutely.
FFA system.
Yep. And when we're getting this movement together, as we're continuing to grow, there's these decisions that we can make together that change policy. There's also all these decisions we can make for ourselves that really breathe more life into this movement. And so, Ranch Mama, you and Bree are with the Beef Initiative, beefinitiative.com. And it's an awesome way for anybody to source local or at least like regional, high quality, direct from the rancher beef and even pork and lamb. And I think this is fantastic. And I hope people consider checking out beefinitiative.com. Beefmaps.com is one of their projects. And you can source high quality food and not just know what's going on your plate, but like where it came from and even a little bit of the story behind the people running that ranch. Real human connection, real local economic empowerment. This doesn't end run around most of the BS we're trying to fight in regulations. Buying it just straight from the rancher and supporting them directly. And there's been talk here also about how do we support these ranchers and farmers that need to like scale up, or, you know, they need capital investment sometimes. And I would love to see us coming up with some sort of a platform or some sort of a program where we're doing the work to get the word out when a farm with a wonderful story that's doing wonderful work and needs some capital can crowdfund essentially from the MAHA movement, that we can actively support those folks. And maybe like a Kickstarter, the perk is you get some of the food, kind of like a CSA, but frame it like modern crowdfunding. Or if they're open to it, doing some sort of an equity crowdfund, because you can do that now with a relatively light regulatory like filing burden. And that was actually something that happened under the Obama administration and under the I think like the Stamp Act or something like that, was they legalized equity crowdfunding. And it's like an IPO, except it's not onto the public stock market. And for a relatively low overhead in filing, you can raise money from the general public. They don't have to be accredited investors. You can raise like $1 million, and depending on the way you file, up to like $7 or $8 million. So we can really uplift some of the best stories of the ones that are ready to go bigger. And I think this movement would support it. I really think we could do it.
And we are working on that literally right now at savebeef.org. We are doing that exact system to crowdfund savingbeef.com, the website name. And we have the foundation set in place. We've helped other ranchers do things like add processing to their facility. We've got a great story coming out from Beck Ranch this summer. They are literally building a brand new processing facility on their farm because of the hiccups, as I like to very kindly say, in processing that a lot of us deal with. And learning all of these steps will truly help change things. So if you go to savebeef.org, you can donate as little as $5.
Yes. And this is a Beef Initiative project?
It is a Beef Initiative project. There is a very large group of us working together to get savebeef.com.
I friggin' love you guys. I think we're going to be doing a lot of really nice collaboration together. And speaking of which, we're going to launch a MAHA challenge next week. We're thinking about doing like weekly challenges, like starting Monday and running until the following Monday. Probably something like replace something unhealthy in your home, like a vegetable oil with a tallow or another kind of a healthy oil. And if you join the X community that we're going to create over the weekend, and then post a photo and maybe a couple of words or a little paragraph about what you replaced and why you chose to do it, we'll choose a winner at random. And that first week, Beef Initiative is going to sponsor a prize. I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be yet. Maybe a small package of just high quality rancher ground beef or something like that. But I'm so excited, and I'm just so grateful for you guys. I'm excited to do more collaborations with you as we go here. Prashant, you've been super patient, man. Thanks for joining us. What's going on?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Well, it's morning here in Hawaii, probably afternoon for most of you.
Mahalo, brother.
Yeah, mahalo. Yeah, I'm old school. I'm 75, and I made food my medicine. When I was 20, and I haven't been to a doctor for any sickness for 55 years. So that's the good news. If we improve I did that by buying all organic food and paying the money for it, and by studying nutrition and a few other things. So if we don't fix, Bree said something about we're importing most of our food now. We're going to starve to death if we don't, recreate farms that grow our own food here. But Ed talks about the most important part. Chemical farming has killed that microbiome in the soil in a lot of our farmland. And if we don't get real and quit beating around the bush, that chemical farming is going to end our country. We got to stop beating around the bush. I'm not being negative, I'm being real. We got to start talking about that every day. Chemical farming will be the end of us if we don't stop it. There may have been a good intention when chemical farming was created, right? People thought it might work. We need to get real. It was a mistake. It was one of the biggest mistakes we ever made for our future.
I totally agree.
Get real and talk about it. And it's the same thing with pharmaceutical healthcare. It was a wrong turn in history. It was a failure. It is a failure. We got to stop beating around the bush. We got to stop supporting. Why is our government still giving all this money to chemical farmers while regenerative farmers struggle to survive?
Absolutely.
That makes no sense.
Totally,
we
man.
talk about that every day. Why is our government supporting pharmaceutical medicine, which has failed us? We got to get real and start talking about it every day. I turned into a bit of a rant, and I don't want to do it. There are answers. We got to quit beating around the bush and get real and just say the simple truths. Our farming system has failed us. Our medical system has failed us. There are options to work. Let's quit beating around the bush. That's what I'll say for today. Thank you.
I love your fire, man. Thank you for getting in here, dude. We do this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern time, and we would love to have you back, man. You got exactly the right juice for it. And you're right. We need to talk about it every day. And I love how you simplified it. Chemical agriculture is a failure, and it's killing us, and it will kill this country. Pharmaceutical medicine is a failure. It will kill this country. You're absolutely right. And man, when you say it that way, it really structures the rest of the conversation, because then it's like, okay, then what? And we have answers for that. So awesome, man. Thank you so much for that. Jessica, hey, welcome to the stage. What's happening?
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Can you hear me okay?
Sure can. You sound great.
Great. First thing, just in response to our friends in Hawaii there, if you Google Earl Butz, he was part of the Ministry of Agriculture back in the day when this whole thing kicked off. So really interesting to follow along how Earl Butz was the one to make, monocropping and the United States become down the road of, the chemical farming avenue. It's a really fascinating thing. The second thing I wanted to ask was, we've been getting our meat from Force of Nature. And I was curious to know, based on this group, do they process their own meat? How do they compare to Beef Initiative? Thank you.
Is Force of Nature the one that they sell at Sprouts? No.
I have seen it there, but we actually just go direct from their website.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't gotten any from them. If anyone else knows, I'd love to know as well. Beef Initiative actually sources from a bunch of different ranchers around the country. One of the main things they do is they curate a map, beefmaps.com, of ranchers all around the country. So they have some featured ranchers, and I believe Ranch Mama can speak really nicely to this as well, because she's a part of the project. Yeah. So yeah, go for it, Ranch Mama.
I'd love to help that. Force of Nature, what they do is they buy from any ranch and brand it under their name. The difference with Beef Initiative is you know exactly which branch you're getting it from. On Beef Initiative, every single box you buy from will have it labeled by exactly which ranch it's coming from. Whereas Force of Nature, Obviously, I'm not part of their organization. They do have standards, but their standards may be very different and maybe ever changing.
And because they
On
sell
the
to retail
season.
outlets, if they ever have pressure on their supply chain, that sort of thing can lead to at least a temporary drop in standards if those standards are self-imposed to make sure that they can keep up with their supply needs. Is that right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And yeah, knowing exactly where your food comes from means to know who your rancher is specifically. And that's why beefmaps.com, or if you go through Welcome to Beef, which will take you into the Beef Initiative, that will let you know exactly who your rancher is, exactly how your meat is raised, literally the location, whether it's like me in Iowa at Eversole Cattle Co., or it's Beck Ranch in Colorado, or Shirttail Creek in Texas. We have several different providers, as you said, regionally across the nation that can ship anywhere across the country. And then beefmaps.com will help you find a rancher in your area.
Yeah, I love this so much. And for anybody who's listening along, and especially folks who come by often, we hang out with the folks from Beef Initiative a lot. And I don't know if it ever starts sounding like a paid sponsorship. It's not. It's a really organic relationship that's been building. They are going to create an affiliate link for us and sort of put together a few specific sort of like packages that people could pick up through an affiliate link. And so if you do end up going through Beef Initiative, once we get that affiliate link up, it would do us a huge favor here at the Midday MAHA and Club MAHA to check it out through the affiliate link, and then everybody gets a little bit of a win. Prashant?
Yeah, hopefully the guy next door won't make a lot of noise. There's construction going on. But another thought that I had, I forgot about it when I was talking, is, there's some really good things about our economy and our economic system, and some really horrendous things about our economic system. And one of the bad things about our economic system is the corporate takeover of healthcare and farming.
100%.
We're talking about a lot of people not having jobs. I am pretty much, unless somebody convince me otherwise, I'm pretty much against giant corporate farms. Let's put the people back on the earth, teach them how to do regenerative farming, and put families back in the farms. When I was a kid, we went and got a quarter of a beef from the local farmer. We got milk from that farmer, and the food was good. Like I said, I'm 75. I'm really healthy. Part of it was that good food I got when I was a young guy.
Yep.
That's not available now for the most part.
Yep. I was raised on really poor quality food, and I've had health issues for my whole life. I just went carnivore about a month ago to do some gut healing work, and within 4 weeks, my symptoms are in like 90+% remission. And I don't plan on being 100% carnivore forever. I do really well on like fresh fruit and other really healthy whole foods. But I had to remove all the inflammatory foods out of my diet and get really strict and get my body working on fat adaptation so that I could kill off candida. For instance, I've had oral thrush for like 15 years, didn't have any idea what to do about that or how bad it might be. I have no idea how long it's going to take for me to get the tight junctions in my gut healthy again. I'm sure I've got leaky gut because it's been so long. And even when because I woke up to how bad the food system was like 20 years ago and started being a little more conscious. I would start going to the local organic grocery store and stuff like that, but I still didn't know what my body needed. So I still wasn't getting the right nutrient mix. I didn't know how to do a short-term diet to deal with the problems that were already present. And now I'm finally doing that work, and it's incredible how quickly you can actually turn it around once you get conscious and start making those right choices. And it takes some discipline for a while and even for the long term. But I'm so excited to expand my diet back out because the foods that I will be able to eat, as long as I'm buying them from the right places and then eating them in the right sort of combinations and concentrations, it's going to be extremely nutritious and delicious. And it's going to take us some work to help other people get there. There are some people of this generation that are going to go to their grave with Cheetos in their hands. You know what I mean? It's just how it's going to be. But a lot of folks don't want to be like that. They just don't know what to do. And it's not convenient, and it's not accessible, and it's not affordable, and it's not socially normal. And there's all these factors need to be one by one and two by two as each of us sort of wake up to it and take those actions.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I mean, and I'm living proof that you can heal. You sound like a young man. I started when I was 20. And I said to myself, I can either pay the doctor or I can pay the extra money for the organic food. And I chose the organic food, and I haven't paid a doctor for any sickness for 55 years. It works. I'm not special. I'm not a rocket scientist. I just studied nutrition. I watched my body. I paid attention. I used my intuition, and it works. Yeah, it works. You can heal your body. It works. That's what I'm here to say. And like I said, but first and foremost, like Ed talks about, we've got to heal the soil, because guess what? There's a biome in your gut that makes you healthy and be able to digest food. And there's a biome in the soil that helps plants be healthy and digest food. I have nothing against beef. I've been a vegetarian most of my life because I taught myself how to do it right. I have nothing against beef, but I'm all against beef being fed GMO corn and soybeans. That's not cow food. So I don't want to rant, but I just shared a little more.
Yep, I appreciate you, man. That's awesome. Really appreciate it, dude. Yvonne, hey, welcome to the stage.
Hi. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to say that Force of Nature is sold at natural grocers. As those health stores go, I think they're great. They really, I think like as soon as Appel came out, I started commenting about that.
Oh, Appeal, the food wax or whatever.
Oh yeah, Appeal. Yeah, Appeal. Yeah, they immediately responded, and they said, we will not use this in any, in our stores. We won't sell it. And the Force of Nature, what I've found is that they have a blend with heart and liver and beef. And for people who, don't like the idea of eating organ meats, but know that there's lots of good nutrition in them, I thought that was a great idea. So I don't, I'm not speaking against the beef initiative. I'm just saying for people, if you need to get your hands on something healthy, Natural Grocers carries that.
I've enjoyed Natural Grocers. I shop there when I'm visiting friends in Colorado, and I find them to be pretty good. And the first place I saw Force of Nature, there's a great account here on X called Cooking with Chris. His handle is spelled with 3 O's in cooking. He's always posting great stuff, and he'll often post his grocery store runs. And more often than not, you'll see something from Force of Nature. And it was the first place I saw that organ blend. And it was the first time I realized, oh, you can have ground beef with organs already in it. Because I've told people in this space that I integrated liver into my diet recently, and I hate it. Oh my God, I do it because I absolutely have to. I got to get that vitamin A, and it's worth it, but I just choke it down. It's rough. And I'm just really excited to try a nice organ blend. I don't know if it's gonna significantly affect the flavor profile, and I'm gonna hate it, but I appreciate what you're saying there, because not everybody is necessarily going to be able to afford or have the bandwidth to go to Beef Initiative, and that's fine. So I do like when these better than conventional options, and maybe way better than conventional options, are available at the stores we might already be going to. Like, I was stoked to find out that was at Sprouts, because a lot of people shop at Sprouts. And so when they're looking through the fridge case and the freezer case and it's right there, that ticks the convenience box. Even if it doesn't tick every box perfectly, I think that's fantastic. Yvonne, why don't you go ahead and respond, and then we'll go back to Prashant.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, as a kid, like my blood type, I never enjoyed meat. And back then, people thought you'd die if you didn't eat meat. So my mom worried a lot. But I just started eating it as I actually practiced more energy work. I felt like I needed more grounding. And as I got older, I felt like I needed more protein. So I'm not a beef lover by any means. I eat a lot of turkey and fish and things like that. But I do have to say, not being a beef lover, that blend to me just tastes like a really good ground beef.
Nice. That's super helpful to know. And it's interesting. I have a very deep compassion and reverence for life. And so I've gone through periods where I ate either less meat or no meat. And I've struggled. And, regardless of my sentiments towards animals for food, I find my body really responds better to animal protein. And so I've really embraced that. And it's one of many reasons that I want to make sure that when I'm buying meat, I'm buying it ethically, that I know the rancher and that I know that they're raising it right and that those animals probably actually had a high quality of life. And not just from some like hippy dippy sentiment, but also because the food ends up being healthier. If that life was higher quality for where it came from, whether it be an animal or a plant. So I appreciate you saying that. Prashant?
Something else you can do,
Oh, yeah.
Damo, is what I do in my house, and my kids don't know it. But so when we get our cow share and we get all these organs with it, I puree them and then I freeze them in ice cube trays and dump them into a container. And then I just like add those when I make things, tacos or chili or whatever,
Nice.
whatever dinner is, I add it into the meat. So you can kind of choose your balance of how much you can palate, and they have no idea it's in there.
That's genius. I joked with my girlfriend that I would just make liver smoothies.
Some people also cut frozen liver up into like pill size and then freeze it that way, and they just swallow it like a pill every day and say that they can't really taste it.
Oh, that's cool. Freezing it pill size. Someone was mentioning, I think it might have been Ranch Mama was mentioning that you can desiccate it. You can just dry it out, make it a powder and put it into capsules. And that also works. Loses a little bit of its potency, but is a nice way to get past the taste if you need to. But yeah, Prashant?
Yeah, I said I was a vegetarian for probably the last, 30 years at least. But I remember when I was a kid, we had beef liver regularly, and we had chicken gizzards regularly, and turkey gizzards. I was a young man on the railroad. There was a restaurant in Berkeley, California that had turkey gizzards, organ meat. Organ meat can be really healthy. But what's the most important thing? What you said, Mr. Host, how was the animal raised?
Right.
If the animal has to be raised healthy. If not, the organ meat's not going to do you any good. So the real important point is the animal has to be raised healthy, the soil has to be raised healthy, and then things can turn around. And the last thing I'll say this time around is, we're talking about people can't afford it. People can't afford it. Well, what's with that? It makes no sense to me that our population can't afford good food. We got money to subsidize wars. We got money to subsidize vaccine makers. Why don't we subsidize really good, healthy, organic, regenerative food and meat? We're putting our money in the wrong place. We're putting our money in places that hurt us.
Well, you're in the right place for that message, my man. Maha gets it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just wanted to share. I don't want to rant on, but I just wanted to share because those thoughts came up.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right.
And it's criminal that people can't afford good food. And the last thing I'll say is at least a third of the food in the grocery stores should be illegal. I'll stop.
Well, we're getting there, and I was actually gonna follow on to your comments here with, while some of us are ready to be way more conscious and go out of our way to make these better decisions, it looks like we're getting what we voted for, especially when it comes to Bobby Kennedy, that he closed the grass loophole, the generally recognized as safe loophole, and now they're going to go back and review all these ingredients they started shoving into food without regulatory oversight. And so even though most of America might not be ready to go out of their way, even buying stuff they're buying today, it's likely that the floor of quality is going to be rising underneath them. And I think that's extremely positive. And I do believe that if we get everything we voted for, even half of what we voted for when we were hoping, when Bobby got into HHS, that the health of America will noticeably improve, especially because he now has control over both food and medicine. And that's such a big deal. Linda, you got a hot mic, love. Jean? Hi, Jean. Can't hear you. I see you're not on mute, but I can't quite hear you. If you, yep, there you go.
Okay, so sorry.
No problem.
Thank you for letting me come up and talk. So I'm a registered nurse by background, and I live in the Midwest, and I'm probably very close to the young lady who's talking about her farm. But anyway, I am the host of a group called Cottage Care Alliance, and we're coming in at it from the medical perspective and what we're seeing happen in the healthcare industry. And we invite anyone who look at the entire ecosystem from a critically thinking perspective.
Hey, Jean, you're roboting a little bit, and I love what you shared. Can you post a link in our purple pill? She's roboting for everybody, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Post that in the purple pill. We want to support 100% and then maybe get to a little bit better reception. I know that we have a hard stop on streaming at 4 p.m. Daniel, we've got about 15 minutes left for that.
Yep. And before people start tuning out, I just want to mention I'm pretty excited for Monday. Because for one thing, we'll launch that first MAHA challenge and maybe have the X community launched by then. Also, we're gonna have a guest on Monday. There's a man named Nick Pinault. I think I'm pronouncing that right. He goes by the EMF guy here on Twitter. He is a journalist and researcher in sort of EMF radiation, talking about 5G and Wi-Fi and stuff like that. And once a year, he does a free conference online, and he has it free online for like 6 days, and then it goes back behind a little paywall. And that's going to go live for free next Thursday. So we're going to have him in on Monday, and we're going to really dive into this other issue that Bobby has talked about actually quite a bit, EMF radiation and its impact on health. But it seems like the rest of us haven't really sunk our teeth into it too much. And I find it such an interesting topic because it's one of those ones where it's really easy to go over the deep end and drop into unprovable conspiracy theory territory. But there is like grounded science to support how meaningful it is to talk about this stuff and do initiatives and regulatory pushes and policy pushes to address it. So I'm really excited to have Nick Pinault here on Monday. America? Kelly?
I just wanted to encourage people because like we are streaming to the different platforms and those links are in the reply section in the purple pill, and for people to share with their friends and family, coworkers that don't get on X. These are recorded, they're saved, and they have all the same information, and also the links are in the chat area or you see it displayed on their screen. So I just want to encourage that to share those out. Thank you.
Yeah, that's so helpful. And I just want to say thank you so much, as always, to America Mission, to the Beef Initiative, to Billy and Danielle at the Council of Domestic Relations. Shout out again to Samantha from the Libertarian Party of Tennessee for coming in today. I hope I'm not forgetting anybody. And yeah, Jessica.
I was just curious to ask, is there any way you guys can get a speaker from the raw dairy, the
Raw Milk Institute?
Yeah. Can you guys get that on the docket?
I would love that. And let me just put this out there to anybody listening. If you have contacts with any fantastic speakers or organizations that are in this sort of MAHA umbrella, whether it's food or agriculture or education or anything, please help us make that contact because this is very much a grassroots movement. This is a community-driven effort. Myself, Damo, and Kristina, and America Mission, and a bunch of other folks help put this show together, this space together 3 times a week. But this is like stone soup. Right? We're creating this container and doing the best we can to sort of glean all the information and the resources and the talking points that come up so that we can make it actionable and accessible for people. But we can't possibly track all this stuff. And we're still in the early stages of making the relationships we need to make all these connections. So if you know folks, please send them our way. We would love to connect. We would love to bring people from these organizations into these spaces and talk about all these important issues. And thank you for that, Jessica. The Raw Milk Institute was one of the ones that I found just a couple of months ago when I started trying to source raw milk. And they have a website, I think it's realmilk.com. No, actually, that's actually a project of the Weston A. Price Foundation, which is another great one where I'd love to have one of their representatives in here to have a conversation. Maybe we can get like 2 or 3 speakers that are experts on raw milk and do a space with just experts, right? People who have their own organizations that are all worthy of our awareness and our support. I would love that. So yeah, thank you so much for that. That's really good. I want to give some other folks, if they have anything to say, one more shot to say it, and otherwise we'll probably wind down here.
We do have some exciting things on the horizon. We are going to go ahead, correct, Damo? We're going to do the X community.
I'm going to call it, whether we put it under the Club MAHA umbrella or name it something else, we're going to do an X community. I think it's just really important because we've got a lot of folks that come back again and again. I'm so grateful for you guys for being a part of this growing community. And I want a place for us all to be able to sort of post and comment, because I know a lot of folks here might not want to get up on stage and talk, but I want you to really feel like you're a part of this community and not just a listener. It's really important that you're here, and I'm really grateful for that. And I want to be able to interact with you guys in a place where you're comfortable, and that we can do a little better job of just like consistently organizing and directing and connecting with each other. So yeah, we're definitely going to do a community. I'm just not sure what we'll name it just yet.
And we're going to have some fun challenges on the horizon. I'm so excited. It's gardening season up here in upstate New York. The flowers have started popping. I'm excited to have a place to share fun gardening stories and photos as well. And just really have fun with making America healthy again. We are going to throw our fists up in the air when we see injustices, but we are also going to celebrate spring and growth and our own little versions of regenerative farming and the little things that we're doing in our lives to make it better.
Yeah, so apparently Kristina used to do a thing called the lazy gardener, and she's just got a ton of tips for how, like, with very little effort, we can all do little home gardening stuff.
And this will make a lot of my more experienced farmers in the room cringe, but yes, that is exactly what I was. I was a lazy gardener. One of my tips for the day is, if you do live in kind of like a tropical region, and I discovered this by mistake, rather than do the whole put the toothpicks in the avocado thing in the window and you're staring at it for 2 months, I would literally dig a hole with my compost and it would have an avocado or a mango seed. I would just dig a small hole, I would dump it in there, I would fill it back in, and poof, I'm strolling through the yard with my coffee, and now I have this mango tree, and now I have this avocado tree. And it's just it's a slow grow way to grow, your food, but it's fun, and it's just really easy and fun, and a good lazy gardening tip.
Totally. Well, and what I love about it is that it takes away this idea that growing our food needs to be some highly labor and like information dense process. Food grows on trees, y'all. Like before we got into agriculture, we were foraging because the ecosystem naturally provided. We just had to go through a trial and error process on figuring out what was good to eat. But in our own yards, we already know what we want to eat. If there's these great, simple, lazy ways to get it going, and especially if you own your home and plan on being there for years, I'm just really excited about this idea. Maybe we can pencil in to have that conversation on Wednesday and just do a whole space around sort of like it, because it's really kind of rebellious.
Gardening hacks,
right? Like it's rebellious. And one of the ones that I would love to at least touch on, not that I've done it myself, is the idea that there's certain produce you can buy from the store, like for instance anything with a seed, and you can just save the seed, buy a clove of garlic, take one of the little nodes of garlic, I don't even remember what they're called at the moment, plant that sucker, and you got garlic. That sort of thing. Potatoes and sweet potatoes, I assume you can make slips off of those if you just let them start rooting.
And a funny thing that happens just from a personal experience is, okay, you're not doing a whole homestead farm. Sure, you don't have time for that. But when you get connected to a plant and you get to watch it grow, it makes it more real. It reinstills the passion. It reinstills the reward. And if you really want a gateway drug, get a couple chickens. Because if you get a couple chickens, it's all over from there. You start learning everything and just Oh my goodness. Yes. Yes. Chicken's
Awesome.
the ultimate gateway drug.
That's awesome. One day I will get chickens and it'll be super fun. So anyway, this has been an awesome space as usual. I'm super grateful for everyone that's come back again and again. Super grateful to America Mission and Beef Initiative and Council of Domestic Relations and everyone in these organizations that have been connecting with us. We are really stitching together a coalition here. This is true grassroots, baby. This is my bread and butter. Just people getting together because they care. You talk enough, and if there's enough initiative amongst you, real things start happening. And it can grow so strong without the corrupting influence of money. Even though, like what was it, savebeef.com is a beef initiative project, and we can crowdfund farmers. But that's the opposite, right, of the corrupting influence of money. That's someone in our community expressing a need and the rest of the community saying, I got you for a few bucks, no problem. It's the exact opposite of this like top-down political finance stuff. So thank you all so much. I'm super excited for next week. Keep an eye out for us launching the X community, and keep an eye out for us launching that challenge. I think it's going to be super fun. Hopefully we'll see you Monday, y'all. 2:00 every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday Eastern time. Thanks.